Welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast, bringing you authentic and vulnerable stories that will inspire you to breathe fire on this world and become your own hero. Here's your host, Blaise Hunter.
Hello, welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast. I'm Blaise Hunter, and I am a fertility expert. No, I don't help people get pregnant. This is a different type of expertise. I actually inspire people to birth confidence, self-worth, to birth their books and business ideas, dreams, passions, and goals, as well as help them discover peace amongst infertility. After going through my own sets of traumas and tragedies, dealing with a rare disease, and experiencing 3 miscarriages, I decided to take charge of my life and not let life happen to me, but rather become the hero of my own life. I am not barren. I continually birth my purpose every day. So that's why I've created this show, to demonstrate how even though we all experience setbacks and disappointments, we still have a destiny to birth. We just need to blaze the trail and be expecting. This podcast will inspire you to lean into your hardships and allow them to be the vehicle that transports you into becoming the hero of your life so you can breathe fire on this world. This week's episode is called Turn into the Spin. And some points we'll cover are why it's so vital to face our problems, how to get pregnant with a dream just by asking questions, and how to turn into the spin on issues like the pandemic, Black Lives Matter, and women's rights. And I have my friend here, C. Natasha Richford, to speak on this topic. C. Natasha Richford has been married to her husband, Melvin, for over 37 years. The couple has 4 grown children, and her husband truly fans her flame. After 31 years of federal government service as an information technology executive, she moved to the next phase of life to work full-time as the CEO of CNR Ministries, LLC/C Natasha Productions. Currently, she is an author, information technology consultant, life coach, and information technology adjunct instructor at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC. She is also a talent management for R&B artist Sunny Dumarsay. She professes music is what real feelings sound like. Grateful that her work expanded her audience beyond the border of the United States, C. Natasha has traveled to countries such as Germany, France, England, Dubai, Iceland, and more to engage audiences with her positive messages. Welcome, C. Natasha, to the show.
Thank you, Blaise, for having me. I'm so excited to be here and bring the energy along with you.
I know. I'm so excited. So for people that don't know, we met each other in Birmingham, UK, back a year ago when we were speaking at the Fearless Women Summit. And I just have to say, your energy, your passion, your talk moved me and resonated so much with me because I think even though we all experience different issues in our lives and challenges, it really boils down to the same. Either you face your issues or run from them. And you talked about facing them, and that's such a pivotal message in my work. So I really connected with you, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing what you do and giving that to the world.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yes, it was a wonderful time there. And I do believe that in life we have good and we don't have bad. We have good and we have lessons. Mm-hmm. Everything that happens to us is a lesson that some people call bad. And I did have a great time doing Turn into the Spin after watching you with that dynamic opening. Come on, girl. You had everybody on their feet and letting us know that we had things to birth.
Yes. Well, and I definitely think I was a shock factor to the UK because the British tend to be a little bit more reserved. And here's this crazy Canadian coming to town and being all fire. And it was awesome. They really received that. So it was a great energy in that room with an eclectic group of women showing what their power is, right?
Right. Exactly. I'm grateful to be here today and having this conversation with you.
Awesome. Me too. It's such a pleasure. So let's dive in and tell me more about your backstory and how you defied the odds and got where you are today and doing all what you do.
Well, one of the things when I went with my business associate and friend, Coretta Doctor, to go and speak in that regard, she says, what can you talk about with people? And I had to think, what is my signature talk, since I had the ability to do a topic myself. And my life is always full of diversity. Nothing happened easy. Everything was hard for me. But one thing I loved watching was NASCAR. And I loved watching Indy 500 races. And anytime their car starts to spin, they turn into it so they don't flip. And that's what I did. Anytime something was other than good in my life, I didn't run from it. I turned towards it. Because if you turn into the spin, your car is straighten up. And I wanted to bring that message to the audience.
I love that. And yeah, you talked about how you were a little girl and then you started playing sports, which led to the idea of college, and you didn't even know what college was. Maybe walk us through that.
Yeah, so when I was in high school, my gym teacher came to me and she saw my athleticism and just asked me to come out for field hockey. And I was like, sure. I ended up doing an exceptional job at it. But my mother said, if you go and play field hockey, I will not drive you home. I had a 5-mile walk, and I said, okay. So I played, did well, walked home by myself every day, and then basketball season came. At the end of field hockey, she said to me, can you come out for basketball? And I was thinking, I'm going to have to walk home in the dark because the seasons are changing. I'm like, okay, I'll go out because I figured I was going to get cut. Wasn't worried about it. Went, made the team, and after I made the team, I met some wonderful young ladies. And after practice, one of them came up to me and said, I'll drive you home. I was like, okay. And then the other one said, are you going to college? Never heard that word before. Didn't want to be embarrassed. So I said, yeah. I'm going to college. Didn't even know how to spell it. And so these girls, who were the only other African-American girls on the basketball team, I was the only one on the field hockey team, they walked me through it. They told me to sign up for the college tour, so I signed up for the college tour, went to the University of Maryland, and I thought it was the biggest high school I've seen in my life. And they took us to Bowie State College, and they had hamburgers in the cafeteria, and I was like, oh, my God, this is the best college high school in the whole wide world. And then they told me to take and study for this, not study, but take the SAT test. I didn't know Scholastic Aptitude test. I didn't know what that was. I knew I had to pay for it. I asked my mother. She gave me the money because it was school. Took the test, eeny, meeny, miny, mowed all the way through it. Didn't know. Nobody told me. Then they told me to go sit with the counselor. Went to the counselor and sat down, talked to her, and I said, yeah, I'm going to college. And she said, no, you're not. You're too dumb. Mm-hmm. I started watering. I looked at her, and she handed me a tissue. I looked at her tissue, and I left that office, and I turned into that spin. I went home, told my mother I wanted to go to college. She says, no, you have to find a job. I said, okay. And then I happened to see my father, who I rarely saw, and I told him about my desire, and a person who did nothing for us as we were growing up said, I'll pay for it. Went home and told my mother. She says, I'm not letting you use my car. The only way to get to college was a 4-hour bus ride. So I asked 5 friends, could they take me? And they said yes. My mother said, oh, you think you're going to college? You have to work full time. I took my little money that my grandmother had sent me over the years. I paid the agency who found me a job as a tailor because at 18 I looked like I was 14. So it's difficult for me to get employment. I paid them all my money. They got me a job. So I went full-time, worked as a tailor. A different friend took me every night to college. And one night, all my friends had to work. And I was like, oh, my God, I got a test. I got to go. I asked my mother. She said, yes. So I got in the car. I sat as still as I could because I didn't want her to get mad at me. I went and took my test. You know how you sit real still so you're like invisible? I took my test. I came out. She was there, and when she was dropping me back, she said, I can't do this anymore. You can go away. Where do you want to go? And I said, Frostburg State University. She says, I saw in the Esquire they have student loans. I'm going to get you one. I said, I promise I'll pay you back. And then I went. But I kept turning in this spin. Every no, I didn't take it as a no. I took it as a challenge, a lesson learned. It didn't stop me. And to this day, I keep turning in the spin. COVID came. Okay, so I teach UMBC at home. Okay, instead of writing more books, I'm going to write articles. Okay, instead of going out and hunting for business, I'm going to sit on different boards and get paid like that. Okay, the spin never stops turning. You have good and you have lessons. COVID-19 has given me my lessons because that college, that person told me I was dumb. And now I'm seeing Natasha Richburg with a BS in business, an MBA from Morgan State University, a Master's of Information Systems from Johns Hopkins University, and an all-but dissertation in a doctoral education leadership program at Morgan State University. This person that's too dumb has 3 degrees because I turned into the spin.
Wow. That's an incredible story and a true testament to actually doing it and applying that method of, because I think we can all relate. We feel out of control, spinning out of control, all these problems, and we all have our own unique issues and challenges. And it's so easy to be like, no, that's too painful. I want to escape, eject. But when you can actually use the momentum of the out of control spin to work for you, look at your life. It propelled you forward, right? Like it worked for you when you leaned into it. And that's so important, right?
Right. Exactly. And this one thing I learned about being an author, and I learned a lot of authors. I have not met an author who didn't have some horribleness in their upbringing. But my horribleness never drove me. My lesson, I have good and I have lessons. If it were not for my friend, Coretta Doctor, asking me to go speak, I wouldn't have gone to speak.
That's amazing.
People, I never speak because I want to speak. I only speak when I'm asked to speak. And then, Blaise, like you, I give them all energy. I turn into the spin.
You give it your all.
Give it my absolute all. Because we don't have problems. Look at your life, girl.
Right. We all got things to battle, right?
Right. But look, you took everything. And you turned into it. And you embraced it.
I did. And that's the key that I think that we're always on that mission, you and I and anyone in this kind of field, is that when I ran from it, it didn't do me any good. So that wasn't the answer, was to, run from it and hide from it and mask it and just avoid it, because that actually drove me further into depression. It didn't help me to avoid it. So I tried a different tactic. And I'm like, well, we've tried everything else. Why not just face the fire? Right. It actually propelled me forward. It was the key, was going through the fire and rising out of that.
Exactly. And what I've learned from teaching at UMBC for 26 years now, that it's not having the answer that drives you. It's the question.
Yes.
And it's the approach. Because I used to think, and I'm going to call myself Boo-Boo the Fool. Don't call you Boo. But when I was younger, I used to think it was the people with the answers or the people who were the millionaires and the thought leaders. No, it's the question. And if you understand your questions, it will guide you to your answer. When the question was, Mommy, can I play field hockey? Yes, but walk. Oh, okay. Can you come out for basketball? Yes, but I'm hoping I don't make the team so I don't have to walk home in the dark. You going to college? Yes, I'm going to college. What's college?
Yeah.
Who doesn't know what college is? I didn't. My great-grandmother was a slave.
Wow.
She couldn't read or write. My family, they just cleaned people's houses. That wasn't what we had in our house. I wasn't around that type of person. But I had questions. Can you speak to an audience? Yeah.
For sure.
It wasn't answers. It was questions. And so people will say, well, what do you mean by questions? So you sit there and wonder why you can't buy the house you want. So the question is, what do I need to do to get enough money?
Yes.
Follow that question.
It's a different question. Like, because I was caught up in that of why is this happening to me? Why are you coming against me? Why am I facing these struggles? But you have to shift the question, not for the why, but what can I learn? What can I learn?
Right.
What can I do? So it's still a question. But it's shifting that type of how you word it, how you look at it. It's a different type of why is this happening to me to what can I learn, right?
Right. That's what I say. You have good and you have lessons. And the question should drive you to get the insight of the lesson. Get the insight of the lesson that you're supposed to get.
Absolutely. And so, like with you and I, we've turned into the spin, we faced the fire, we found our dream and our passion, but there's so many people asking that question of like, well, I don't have a dream or a purpose. Like, how would I find that? And so what do you tell people in that question mentality? How do you get them to find their dream or their purpose?
I didn't have a dream either. I just didn't want to be in pain. I just didn't want to be poor. I just didn't want to be stagnant. So I didn't have a dream. I didn't even know I didn't have a dream. I didn't know what a dream was. You know, people have to live in an atmosphere where they naturally dream or they get to the point that they meet people who dream. I never had a dream. I had a question.
Oh.
But let me tell you something. This is a true story. I had a desire to go to college after I found out this lady said I was too dumb. But it never occurred to me to think about what I was going to do when I graduated. So that 2 days before I was due to graduate, the new question came. What am I going to do? And how am I going to do it? And what do I feel like doing? I didn't have that question before.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a new question.
I love that.
And for people who can't dream, I got the answer. I know the answer. Here's the question. What makes your heart feel good? Take that picture of that and put that in your journal. So if your heart feels good because you like mowing the grass, get pictures of nice lawns and put it in that thing. Or if your heart feels good because you just like to eat ice cream, put ice cream in there. Or you like to do movies, or you read a good book, and put those all in your people say vision boards. I do a journal so I can carry it everywhere I go.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what happened, Blaise? I found out everything I did in my first vision journal came true.
Wow. Really?
I went back after 3 years, didn't even look at it. I dreamt I was going to travel. I was going to travel the world. I traveled the world. I definitely dreamt in it, because that's a dream, if that's what that is, that I was going to go to Paris. Went to Paris. I had everything I had in there. So I found, that's what I learned. I needed to dream bigger. So do I have physical dreams? No, I have internal desires that I put in a book that I call a dream.
That's amazing. I love that. And I love that you are embodying what you're saying and you're living it. You're not just talking the talk, you are walking the walk. And I think that's encouraging to other people because like you or me, we've turned into the spin on things we've dealt with in our past. But now as we get here, it's not that I've arrived and I never have to turn into the spin again. It's a constant practice. Wouldn't you say?
Constant, good and lessons. Not good and bad, good and lessons. Peaks and valleys.
Yeah, just keep going, keep challenging yourself every day to not shy away from the out of control feeling, but face it and turn into it, right?
Right. If you hate going over to your family's house on a holiday because somebody always says something that makes you feel bad, role play it. Role play it in a way that's empowering to you before you go in. So when Cousin Fred says, oh, you're so fat, oh, not as much as you, but thanks for the compliment, and go sit down. I mean, prepare for it. Don't let it just happen. Turn into that spin.
Yes.
Don't just dread going because of what they're going to say. Practice.
Well, exactly. And I always try and help people, like, You're not a victim of your circumstance. You control the narrative of your story. You are the driver. So when you're feeling out of control, you've got to correct it yourself. You are in control. It's not dependent on outside things happening to you. It's like, okay, what is happening now? I'm going to turn into it, and I'm the pilot, right?
Right. Because if you turn into it, just like if your car spins, if you turn into it and take your foot off the brake while you're doing it, because you keep on the brake, you're going to flip. Take your foot off the brake, you will go straight. It'll jerk straight.
Love
and
it.
you'll be able to continue.
I love that analogy. And also with people saying, okay, like, I still don't know where my interests or my passions are, what makes me happy. I always say, like, ask the question, how can I help? Because once you start getting yourself out of your own stuff and helping and being of service, you find where an interest area might pique you, and then that might lead you into a passion or a desire, right?
Exactly. You always have to, if you're going to move forward with the question in it, you do have to help along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why we wrote the book, People Ask, What's the Secret About 36-Year Marriage? We wrote that book because people kept asking us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, read the book. It's very simple. It's not written from a real deep perspective. There's a lot of white space in it. It's quick lessons because people keep asking the secret. And I found the secret for us. Both Melvin and I want to make me happy in our marriage because I always make him happy. It's a given. But he didn't really realize that he needed to want to make me happy.
Yeah.
And when we both, for our marriage, that was the secret. That's the secret sauce for us. And everybody has to find a secret sauce for their life. And you have to explore and go at it.
That's so true. I love that you bring that up because I was like that in my marriage. I look at people that have been married for so long and you're happy, and I do want to learn from you. I want to read your book because we can apply all these tips to our relationships and partnerships. And for me, I was like, why should I change when he has to change? And why should I support when he doesn't support me? But I had to shift that. And then, like you said, ask the question, take myself out of it. Ask the question, how can I support you? And guess what, marriage tip, this has changed my life, is that the moment I started asking that question to him, he automatically asked the question back. So
exactly.
I gave the pathway for him to say, hey, I support you. And he in turn supported me back. But I had to take that step. And people say, well, I don't want to have to do it why isn't he doing it? And I said, well, do you want to be right and win an argument, or do you want a good partnership?
And then, one thing I tell I coach people, and one of the things I tell them, I learned being right is overrated. I found in my marriage, husband, 4 children, that I was right, and everybody in my house hated me. I had to get off of being right and learning what made everybody come together. Because you can be right, and everybody hates your guts. So being right is overrated. Coming to an understanding is progression. Right? If you take right, wrong off the table, that kills 80% of your argument.
It does. But it's ego. You have to get rid of it. You got to check that and say, hey, this isn't about me being right or winning. This is about creating flow and cohesiveness and a stronger partnerships. We have to realign what our goals are in that relationship, right?
Right. And when you argue and you try to be right, that's a waste of time. But I tell the people another secret for a good marriage, and this is a real secret. I tell girls, try this all the time. You cannot emotionally embarrass a man and think he's going to be all right with you. We can handle emotional embarrassment. They can, but they have to make us feel safe.
Yes.
If we feel safe, life is good. If we're worried that you're coming home on time or you're going to do this and this and this, we can't help it. And then the first thing we want to do is emotionally embarrass. If you don't emotionally embarrass, I'm talking to me right now. When I'm looking at you, Blaise, I'm talking about me. If I'm emotionally embarrassed, I'm going to feel safe because he's going to make sure he makes me feel safe.
Yes, and that key is that understanding that dynamic, what we do to protect, because we women emasculate, and I was there because I didn't feel the love, and I emasculated, and I took shots and little digs that destroyed him, but he wouldn't express that until I read an amazing book by a relationship expert, Allison A. Armstrong, The Queen's Code, shifted my whole perspective on how I speak to men and my husband in particular. Right. And I said to him one day, I was like, do I emasculate you when I say that? And he's like, yes. And that was just like, what? Like, I never even understood that the power of my words in that moment, what it did to his soul. And shifting that and not emasculating him allowed for him to then love me more, because men want respect, women want love and safety. We withhold our respect when we don't feel that love, and they withhold the love when they don't feel respect, and it's a perpetual circle that never ends in love and respect.
That's why you can't worry about being right.
Yes.
We can take below the belt more than they can. So if you're a female, never hit below the belt. Just keep above the belt. You want to tell him his breath stinking, he looks ugly, but don't say it. Just say, I'm not feeling you today.
I love that. I can use that line. And then he, in turn, he knows when he goes out, he's going to call me that he got there. He's going to call, he's on his way. For me, that makes me feel safe. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I love how they just shifted. This is amazing how to have these real conversations, and even in relationships, turn into the spin. Don't deflect with digs and emasculation.
Right.
Turn into that and work through the issues in your relationship. We all have issues. No one has a perfect marriage or a relationship or partnership.
No one.
Right? So we got to work through the issues, not deflect and mask it up and then use, armor instead of actually working through the problem or working through the conflict, right?
Right. Again, turn into the spin.
Oh, I love, you can use this analogy, people, with anything that you're going through. It'll change your life, this method. Turn into it.
Yeah.
Like, we learn to avoid, we don't want to feel anything, and we numb everything, and it's like, no, we're saying feel it, go through it, but you'll end up on the other side, right?
With your lesson, and take that lesson with you. When you get on the other side of the spin, you get a major lesson. I remember one night I was driving to work. It was like 4 in the morning, and I was on the highway, and I didn't notice it, but I always keep a respectable distance. And so the car in front of me jerked to the left really quick. I didn't understand why. And then right in front of me, a person got out of a car that was stuck with no lights on. I turned to the left very quickly. My car began to spin. I left my foot off the brake. I turned into it slightly, and it went straight. It worked.
Wow.
At 60 miles an hour. And I said the average person would have hit the wall.
Yeah.
But I just love race car driving. I love that analogy. So it does work.
Oh, I love it. That's such an easy way to put it into perspective. And it works, like you said.
It does work. It really does. This is a season with COVID where everybody's walking around with a shield of pain on them. And one of the things I like to do, and you could tell when you met me and you're the same way, I like to be real smiley with people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it cuts the air, but you can't even be smiley anymore because most people can't see beyond underneath the mask.
This is so true.
Speaking verbally, how are you today? Because you can't. So you got to figure out a way because everybody is having some kind of bad something.
Well, yeah, like you said, we're going through all these different things, and that brings me up to the next point of, like, we are going through powerful times, like challenges. Real challenges are facing every single person in this time of the pandemic. Black Lives Matter has really come forward, also women's rights. So what are some of your suggestions of, like, people are going through major, issues right now with these three main things. How are you going to encourage people to turn into the spin with those three issues?
Right. I say educate yourself. If the energy behind it on television or media gets you excited, stay away from that. Read about it from a print perspective. Then you don't have the energy, but you inform yourself. You just need to inform yourself. You need to understand. Or if you have that friend like me, people will call me and say, what's the latest that happened? And I tell them in a funny way. But you need to be informed. what's going on, where people have an angst at, what's the probability of different things happening. Because once you're informed, you don't feel as anxious. And I do believe, because in Baltimore, I live in Baltimore with Freddie Gray. I was out there protesting. I was out there. I was watching. It was so funny. This is not funny. But when Mike Brown died, we went to the protest, right? Good protest. And then when we got to the meetup spot, they gave us the card for the attorney. I was like, the attorney? Oh, we need a card for the attorney. I had my little Black Lives Matter sign, I was going to walk. And next thing you know, the police come out with a great big old long paddy wagon. I was like, I'm going to jail.
Wow.
Oh, my God. That's something to myself. But the people who did the march were wonderful. They called the heads of states, and the police let us good, and we read through. But I held on to my attorney card for 2 weeks after that in case they showed up at my house or something. And so I felt like I had to do something. Now at this point, I can't go out like that because I have responsibilities at home. So I donate.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like I just do $5 a month to change.com or something. I just donate. I mean, and I tell friends, if you don't have a lot of money, you can do $2 a month.
Yeah.
$2 a month from 1 million people, that's enough because protests aren't free. Those people got to have attorneys ready. They got to get all of the permits. They give people water. It's not free to protest. And they pay that cost. So I figured that's what I can do. So I feel like I'm helping in that regard. I teach at UMBC. My students aren't used to having teachers that look like me. An African-American woman in information systems, we are kind of rare.
Right. Yeah.
And so I bring it with humor. I let them tell jokes. We tell jokes in the class so they can laugh. Because I look for ways to compliment them because I know life is hard for them too. This is what I live. I have black sons. I have to worry.
Well, and I think we can, whatever that you're passionate about or learn about, because I'm Caucasian, right? But I want to learn what is this really meaning? And I guess it's like having that conversation, ask the questions, be informed, ask questions. You don't know. It's not and I guess maybe we feel a little bit of a divide because is it impolite for a Caucasian person to ask an African-American woman? Or do you welcome that?
Welcome. You don't just ask the question. You could say, I'm a Caucasian woman, so I may not understand the vernacular or exactly what you're doing. And some of my premises may be incorrect. However, I want to understand. So what do you think is the first thing I need to understand? Or the first book I need to read? Because there are different books that you can read that help your understanding. And let them help you with that. Like I just got Al Sharpton's book, Rise Up. I haven't read it yet, but I know that's just going to be full of good anecdotal information. So and they just want to know, you got to set the context of why you're asking.
Right. It is encouraged to just keep having those conversations. You won't learn anything if you're silent. It's about asking the questions, right?
Right. And I have a lot of students that come from the Middle East. So 9/11 is tight for them.
Yeah.
So I have to, on 9/11, I was teaching my class at UMBC. School was canceled, and I'm talking about when it happened. They canceled it that week. We went the next week. And the first thing I said to my class, I said, if my Uncle Willie ran into those buildings, you cannot be mad at me because I didn't do it.
Yes.
Look at me. I don't have the same beliefs as Uncle Willie, even though we might look alike. So you don't have permission to be mad at me because of him if I haven't demonstrated that behavior. Mm-hmm. That took the tension out of the classroom.
I love that.
Because that's tough for them. That's tough.
It is
because
tough.
Somebody thinks because they're from the Middle East, they want to run. That is not true, just as much as all African Americans do whatever. So it's just to be empathetic, open, use analogies, kind of use some humor when you can.
Well, I think that and having those conversations kind of shatters some preconceptions we have or judgments, and really gets to the core of just empathy and love for one another as humankind. And I think we just need to get like that. But how do we get there? We turn into the spin and we start speaking. Right? We cannot solve what we don't speak of. So whatever issues you're going through, start the conversation and start learning and asking those questions and educate yourself and be informed and see both sides. And don't just look up information that supports your point of view, because we always have blind spots. So learn something that is probably completely the opposite of your point of view, but you can always find an empathy factor in that as well, right?
Right, exactly. And I always tell people knowledge is power, and you can't have knowledge. Okay, I'm going into my information system spin. First, there's data. You get a chart with a whole bunch of numbers. Data. That's just data. The address, name, phone number, sex, wage of people. That's plain old data. When you ask the question, how many people in that chart are over 50 and make $100,000? Once you ask that question, the answer becomes information. Then from the information, you read it, it becomes knowledge. And then once you have enough knowledge, you become wise. It goes into your system, into your spirit, and becomes wisdom. So you have data, a plain old chart. You ask a question about that data, which yields information. That information becomes a knowledge source, and then you become wise as you keep gathering. So if you just simply ask a question of a minority about Black Lives Matter and you don't have any data in you, it's not going to ring true to anything. So you got to feed your mind with at least different people's points of view. That's why years ago I read everything from Malcolm X, everything from Martin Luther King, everything from NAACP, everything from what I read from school books, and put it all together, because all their stories didn't automatically match exactly. And that yielded questions for me. So I have better questions.
Oh, I love that. Better question. You learn. Me too. Like when I started out, I asked maybe an incorrect question, but it still was, the motive was right. But now I've learned better questions, better way to articulate, better way to formulate. So it's a process of always improving the question, right?
Yes. Always improving the question. And as you get older and older and wiser, your questions will get better. You'll see two people fighting, and you say, so you said A and you said B. So why are you fighting about K?
Yeah.
And you don't have to say anything else.
Exactly. Oh, this is amazing.
Because you think normally, when you're younger, you got to figure out and help them answer it. All you got to do is listen, and ask them a question.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. We could talk forever. I just love your energy. I love your analogy. You break it down so people can relate. And I think that's so vital, especially as an IT person. You're really good at not being so analytical, but you use the analytical, but shift it into a really well-received question and point of view that I'm able to be like, hey, that totally makes sense. That resonates with me. I get it, right? It's awesome. So what are you working on these days? Like, I know you've had to shift a bit with COVID and doing more articles. What are your next steps, and how can people connect with you?
Well, we just filmed 2 more episodes for A Conversation with the Rich Birds, and that's explaining about my life and love of Melvin Richburg. And so the first one was just, can we talk? And it's on Prime Video. So anybody who has Prime, you can see it. The next one is going to talk about the seasons of love, and that'll be up in a month or 2. And then the next one is my daughter's IVF love story, because she had her child through IVF. And that's going to be real interesting. And so that's what we have. So it's on Prime Video, so you can at least see the first episode now. Still working with Coretta Doctor and Communique Magazine and Urban Sentinel Magazine, writing for them. And I do a lot of consulting and coaching. And my website is cnatashaproductions.com.
Perfect. I'll put those links up there for everyone to connect with you as well if they want to get in touch with you. And I'm so interested into that IVF story because, of course, I have my own infertility. Yes. So anyone that's in that fertility avenue with me, joining in this journey and interested, I would be interested in getting that link up and promoting that because that is so vital to start talking about and breaking the silence barriers on, in infertility and loss, and really showcasing that we're not barren and we're not alone and we're in this journey together.
And we're going to put that one, I hope that one goes up around Christmas time, December is, because she went through it all, because she had to have weight loss surgery and a whole bunch of, she got so many things. So it's like, oh, I don't have that. Oh, I have that. I don't have, she had all that stuff.
Yep. Awesome. You're so amazing. And my final question for you today is just, what keeps you going? What keeps you inspired to tackle another thing to turn into the spin tomorrow? What inspires you?
I think what inspires me, because I've been thinking about it more because I'm home, I think if I had a great upbringing, I wouldn't be as focused. But it was horrible the way I was treated by my mother, and that motivated me to do more and be better. It turned into the spin of, living with somebody that really doesn't like you. That's hard. But from that, I just have this drive to be out there, to be better, and to help and to teach.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, that's so amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. Just to recap what we talked about, turn into the spin. It is the key. There is no bad, just lessons. Uncover your inner desires, your dreams, your passions, your goals with questions. And your questions will evolve over time into better questions. So keep having that conversation. Keep asking things. And that is the key to developing more knowledge, more power, more passion. Knowing better equals doing better. So thank you so much for Natasha coming on today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and continued success for all that you do, and keep that energy up. I'm so proud of you and enjoy everything you do.
Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about my consulting programs, purchase my book, or have me speak at your next event, please visit blaisehunter.com. I do have a free offer for everyone. You know what? When we get lost when we're driving, what do? We Google Maps that stuff, right? We go to the map. So I have a map on my website on the free offers tab for a video when you're feeling out of control and feeling overwhelmed and anxiety. I help you turn into it and Google Maps yourself out of that overwhelm and back to peace and balance. So head to my website, claim that offer, and you can find yourself back to peace and balance in your day. Thanks again, Natasha, for coming on the show. That's it for this week's episode. Challenge yourself to be vulnerable, lean into the difficulties, and have those open conversations and questions so we can rise up as the heroes of our lives and let us breathe fire together. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and support Blaise the Trail podcast. Reviews are always welcome and very much appreciated. Thanks for listening. I'm Blaise Hunter.
You've been listening to Blaise the Trail with Blaise Hunter. To learn more about how you can breathe fire and unleash the hero within, or to listen to past episodes, visit blaisehunter.com.